Africa and Russia have had a complicated history together. Throughout the Cold War, the Soviet Union maintained tight relations with numerous African nations and offered them financial and military support. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia's influence in Africa decreased. Furthermore, Russia has stepped up its political and economic ties to Africa in an effort to re-establish its influence there in recent years. African nations and the Russian government have worked together on energy, mining, and military weapons. Additionally, the nation has trained certain African nations' militaries and stepped up its involvement in African peacekeeping. And now, Africa and Russia have unveiled a new trade plan that is expected to destroy the US currency. Russia and African countries are heading towards settlements in national currencies, according to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. This is a big change in the way they trade with each other because it will lessen their reliance on reciprocal trade payments in US dollars and euros. This declaration was given at a news conference regarding the outcomes of Russian diplomatic efforts in 2023. Additionally, the purpose of the event was to give a general summary of the advancements accomplished and future goals of the Russian government in terms of its diplomatic ties with other nations. According to Lavrov, in order to help reorganize the cooperation mechanism under Western sanctions, the parties are producing documentation. In order to lessen the impact of sanctions on their trade contacts, new methods for supply chain management, payments, and trade and investment cooperation are being developed. The second summit with Africa this year will take place in St. Petersburg at the end of year, the Russian foreign minister also announced. It is anticipated that this summit would give the Russian administration a chance to talk about enhancing relations and collaborating with African countries. It is crucial to remember that the switch to national currency settlements is a gradual process. Still, it's moving forward and picking up steam. This change in trading practices will probably have a big effect on future international trade as well as the state of the global economy. Russia has been actively pursuing a de-dollarization program in international trade in an effort to reduce its significant reliance on the US dollar and the euro in recent years. In keeping with this objective, Russia has also begun using more of its own currency and mutual payments with a number of its trading partners, including Saudi Arabia, China, and India. It was recently declared by Saudi Arabia that it will adopt a de-dollarization strategy as well. In addition, Russia has been progressively increasing its political, economic, and military ties with Africa in recent years. Actually, the nation has over 20 bilateral agreements inked with various African nations, resulting in a rise in trade volume between Russia and the continent. Currently, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov traveled to 4 African countries last year in an attempt to deepen these relations. This covers the Republic of Congo, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Egypt. The article Russia and Africa, a future-bound partnership, written by Sergei Lavrov during that period, was extensively shared by African media. Lavrov thanked the African nations who abstained from voting for the UN General Assembly resolution in March that denounced Russia's incursion into Ukraine in the article. A growing number of African states, 24 out of 54, abstained or did not cast a ballot, demonstrating the expanding partnership and cooperation between Russia and Africa. De-dollarization and more engagement with Africa are deliberate steps by Russia to broaden its political and economic alliances and lessen its reliance on the West. Additionally, it improves the political and economic relations between Russia and African nations and creates new avenues for trade and investment. Lavrov has underlined how crucial it is to uphold African countries' sovereignty and their freedom to choose their own development routes. As per his statement, Russia adheres to the notion of African solutions to African problems and refrains from dictating how others should live or imposing any rules on them. Furthermore, he has pledged to assist African agriculture. This was proven during the blockade of Ukraine last year when Russia intervened to make sure that grain supplies went to needier, poorer countries rather than merely the EU. Putin disclosed in September that just 2 of the 87 ships carrying grain from Ukraine were shipped to underdeveloped nations like Ethiopia and Yemen, with the rest going to the EU. African nations suspicious of European neocolonialism and the United States thought to be involved in diplomatic bullying welcomed this strategy. Furthermore, Russia has demonstrated its commitment to meeting the requirements of developing countries by working to promote agriculture in Africa and make sure that grain deliveries are made to less developed countries who are in need. Additionally, it demonstrates their dedication to supporting sustainable growth. In recent times, Russia has provided assistance to Africa in a number of areas, including energy and food. But because of EU policy, prices have gone up and many African nations now face the possibility of energy shortages. One instance is South Africa, where there are daily 12-hour blackouts for the government. The Pretoria government is placing the blame for this predicament on the EU. This has also pushed for the use of rubles or other currencies rather than US dollars or euros in trade between Russia and Africa. This is a result of the sanctions making it challenging to pay Russia with these currencies. Africa thus views itself as a victim of European policies toward Russia and does not receive concerted European support to mitigate the consequences that follow. Additionally, the first Russia-Africa summit was organized in Sochi, Russia, in October 2019 with the goal of promoting social, political, and economic cooperation between the two continents. All 54 African states sent representatives to the summit, 45 of which sent their heads of state. Russian President Vladimir Putin declared at the conference that the two countries wanted to double their commerce to $40 billion by 2024. The purpose of this objective was to strengthen the political and economic links between the two areas. Western sanctions, however, have made these attempts more difficult, but Russia is aggressively looking for solutions. Despite the obstacles, Russia is committed to boosting commerce and collaboration with Africa and searching for ways around the sanctions. The South African rand and the Egyptian pound against the ruble are now officially quoted by the Bank of Russia. The IMF created SDR as another international reserve asset that the bank quotes against. Additionally, because they can be freely exchanged throughout Africa, the rand and the Egyptian pound might gain popularity as currencies for commerce with Russia. Some African nations have made the decision to link their currencies to the euro or US dollar. This encompasses the Central West African states, Ethiopia, Algeria, Morocco, Nigeria, and the six-nation Central African CFA franc zone. These currencies, which were formerly tied to the French franc prior to the euro, were, however, guaranteed by the French government. Russia is able to investigate methods for creating a stable and profitable ruble to African exchange rate, thanks to the current framework. In order to maintain trade and financial stability, it is imperative to refrain from using either the US dollar or the euro. In addition, China and Russia are seeking to expand their investment and trade in Africa in an effort to find new resources and markets. A crucial chance to make this happen is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Additionally, the deal intends to eliminate trade barriers within Africa, creating opportunities to link Chinese and Russian components with African resources. Additionally, this would open up production and market prospects for reselling on the African market and exporting to other nations. In addition, a number of African nations are considering joining trade associations like the Eurasian Economic Union and the BRICS. This may result in more cooperative partnerships between Russian and African companies. Both parties would win from this as African nations would have access to Russian technology and knowledge. On the other hand, Russia would have access to the abundant resources and expanding consumer markets of Africa. The establishment of systems to guarantee stable financial trade between Russia and the 54 African countries will take time, though. In spite of this, efforts are being made to create an atmosphere that is conducive to investment and trade between Russia and Africa. Given its robust economic relations and absence of negative colonial history in Africa, it is reasonable to anticipate that Russia will become a more significant player in African investment and trade going forward. What are your thoughts on Russia and Africa, and do you think they can overthrow the US dollar? Let me know down below. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.